Philadelphia Eagles now is presented by True Classic Tees. They have everything they have to offer to really add to your wardrobe, from shorts to jeans, regular shirts, or golf polos like this with really good material. Also workout gear that I can't get enough of. I wear True Classic basically on a daily basis by now, and they are a phenomenal sponsor here at Chat Sports. 25% off of your order if you use that link at the bottom of your screen, trueclassictees.com/chat. But make sure you use the promo code chat for that deal to apply so that you can look good. These shirts are designed for men of all shapes and sizes. We'll put that link in the comment section and the description of this video. So really the purpose of today's show, a preview and also a pretty notable admission from Carson Wentz about his Philadelphia Eagles tenure after he was selected behind Jared Goff back in the 2016 NFL Draft. Can't wait to really break all of this down. First, though, I do want to pose this question because this is our poll question for today's show. Eagles on the road against Washington, but still, the question still lies here. Will you boo or cheer Carson Wentz considering what he did for this franchise? They probably don't win a Super Bowl without him, but the tenure ended a little bit rocky, or will you cheer him? Let us know right now in the comment section, B for boo or C for cheer. So the stage is set on Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern slot from FedEx Field, and the Philadelphia Eagles are 7-point favorites on the road. Now, oftentimes, home teams are given about 3 points when they're the favorites. So that would mean that the Eagles about 10-point favorites if this was a neutral surface. But keep this in mind if you're betting on this game. It's not really that big because a lot of Eagles fans make this a home away from home type of game. What's also interesting, the over-under 47, so a little bit low and certainly lower than that Monday Night Football game against the Minnesota Vikings. And the Eagles are looking to move to 3-0 on the season, on the road against the Commanders and Carson Wentz. We'll get to what Wentz had to say about his Philadelphia tenure, then my keys for the game. And there are a couple of truths about Carson Wentz and his time with the Birds. It got off to an awesome start. It ended pretty poorly. And the Birds don't win a Super Bowl championship in Super Bowl 52, dethroning Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, taking down the Patriots, and one of the more epic Super Bowls that we've ever seen in Minnesota without Carson Wentz. His play in 13 starts got the Eagles that #1 seed, but also he could have handled the ending to his Eagles tenure a little bit better. He wanted out of town, and he didn't look back when he left. And I have some problems with that. But you go back to the 2017 season, right? Carson Wentz, before he shredded his knee against the Los Angeles Rams in an epic game at the LA Coliseum, was sensational. He was so good on third downs, fantastic. And on some of the money downs, he did things to historic proportions. And these are his numbers in just 13 starts. 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. The completion percentage was down, but it was really good on third down conversions because he had John DeFilippo, Frank Reich, and Doug Peterson on that offensive staff. He threw for nearly 3,300 yards, and he still finished, even though he missed the back end of the season, third in MVP voting. And the end of the Doug Peterson regime, just like the end of Wentz's tenure, was certainly rocky. You could tell that Dougie P wasn't getting along well and was not vibing with Howie Roseman, and it's unfortunate that it ended the way that it did so shortly after the Eagles had won a Super Bowl. But let's be real, the Eagles were a pretty mediocre franchise after they won the Super Bowl. Yes, they dealt with a lot of injuries, but also Dougie P was lacking in a couple of areas. And another truth, the Eagles didn't really do Carson Wentz any favors. That final season as a full-time starter, when the Eagles had to go undefeated in the final month, I mean, shoot, Greg Ward was his #1 weapon. So he didn't really have legitimate weapons on the offensive side of the football, yet he still played really, really well. And the Nick Foles situation also didn't help his mental psyche. He got injured after having an MVP caliber season. Then he sees the backup quarterback win the first Super Bowl in the history of this franchise and become Super Bowl MVP. And for Wentz, I kind of feel bad for him to a certain degree. I wish he would have stayed healthy in his first career playoff start against the Seattle Seahawks. Was it a dirty hit from Jadeveon Clowney? Probably. If he stays healthy, though, Eagles had momentum. Did they end up winning that game and going on a sneaky run? Potentially. But we never saw it with Wentz, and that really does categorize and summarize his tenure. It all comes down to what could have been. He was great in 2017, and after that injury, he never got even close, and things never got right for him. As for what he said about his Eagles tenure this week in the lead up to this rivalry game, I mean, this league, my career, it's been a whirlwind. I'll tell you that much. A lot of really good memories from my time there. I'm not going to lie. A lot of great friends, a lot of great relationships that I made. Definitely will have some mixed emotions on Sunday in terms of those things, but nothing crazy jumps out other than my time there was a whirlwind. It was wild. The NFL is a whirlwind, but I'm grateful to still be playing, and I'm excited for this one. Here's where it really starts to get interesting here. There are always things I look back on and think, man, I could have been better here. I could have been a better person. I could have been a better teammate. There are lots of things that you do take for granted. And if you remember, when Wentz started to kind of fizzle out in Philadelphia, there were all these rumors and all of this speculation about him not being a good leader, him not being a good teammate. And I think that's why the Eagles have rallied around Jalen Hurts, and they haven't done the same, or they didn't do the same with Carson Wentz. There are different ways to go about your leadership qualities. Now, when you see Carson Wentz and when you watched him in some of his press conferences with the media, you're like, what is there not to like? But there were rumblings in the locker room that he really wasn't that guy to rally around, and for him to basically admit that, I thought it was pretty telling. Now, with this game, before we start getting to my keys for this matchup and really start breaking this down in further detail, I want to hear from you in the comment section. Get those predictions in. Who you got? PHI for Fly, Eagles Fly. WAS for the Washington Commanders. Let us know right now in the comment section. I think the Eagles end up winning this game. As I mentioned off the top of the show, Philadelphia Eagles now is presented by True Classic Tees, a wonderful sponsor here at Chat Sports. And you can get 25% off your order if you utilize that link to your advantage, trueclassictees.com/chat. Now, almost all men's t-shirts are designed to look good on a certain body type. Think skinny models with six-packs. But most of us aren't packing anything but a few beers, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. My dudes, it's all simple for Eagles fans watching. You're wearing the wrong clothes. True Classic will make you feel your best by accentuating the places that the eyes go to first. Wink, wink. Whether you have abs or flabs, their clothes look great on all body types. Skinny dudes, big dudes, buff dudes, my dudes. True Classic has you covered, 25% off. Again, this golf polo that I'm rocking right now, wonderful material, but also these t-shirt packs are great too with that cotton polyester blend. I also really like their athletic line with that really good material. Most importantly, though, it's affordable gear that's stylish and it looks good on everybody, no matter what your size is out there. So, one more time, trueclassictees.com/chat. You get 20% off of your order. Get yourself outfitted. We'll put that link in the comment section and the description of this video. So we pivot now to my keys to victory for the Eagles to push their record to 3-0 to continue to stay atop the NFC East. And we'll see what happens with this Giants-Cowboys game on Monday Night Football with the surprise G-Men under Brian Daboll off to a 2-0 start. I think for Philadelphia, keep doing what you're doing. Keep being aggressive on the offensive side of the ball. Continue to throw the ball downfield. Continue to be creative with your play calls as well as your play design, and play aggressive defense both up front, and I want to see more aggression from Jonathan Gannon, but also really let that back end eat, led by Darius Slay as well as James Bradbury. And we know with Carson Wentz, he makes some of the most dumbfounding mistakes that I have ever seen among all quarterbacks in the NFL. It's really him and Daniel Jones. You watch them and you're like, there's some good. And they can make really good 10 throws in a row. And then after that, you're like, what the hell did you see? Wentz did that in week 1 against the Jaguars and wasn't good in week 2 in a loss against the Lions. So if you pressure him, you can make him make mistakes to really tilt and turn this game. As for Washington, this is not a team that you can sleep on. 1, they're a divisional rival. 2, they're pretty well coached with Ron Rivera. 3, they have a pretty good roster. The defensive line is really good, even without Chase Young. They've really invested in the trenches over the last couple of years. But I want to focus here momentarily on the offensive side of the football. Wentz is Wentz, but with Wentz, you do get some good, and he can make any throw on the field and really crush you athletically, and has a couple of really good wide receivers. Terry McLaurin's really good, and then Jahan Dotson. the most sure-handed wide receiver in the 2022 NFL draft class, in my opinion. He's gotten off to a really good start. So they can burn you, and we've seen Terry McLaurin burn the Eagles time and time again. But I want to see from this Eagles secondary what we saw against the Minnesota Vikings. Duplicate the Minnesota success. They locked down Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen better than any other defense has done over the last couple of years. If they bring that same type of energy on Sunday against McLaurin and Dotson, Eagles will be in a really good spot. And for this Washington team, they win week 1 against the Jags. They lose week 2 against the Detroit Lions. You have an opportunity here to mess with their mental psyche, snatch their souls, take their heart rate out of their chest, play bully ball, and run downhill. And part of that is the Eagles' identity. Also, at some point, defense is going up against the Birds. They're going to watch the tape with more of a sample size out there. They're going to adjust. So my question for Philadelphia, Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, how are you going to counter-adjust against how defenses are now going to play you with more film on tape? You have a very versatile and deep offense. Continue to keep that opposing defense off kilter, and you'll be just fine. And along those same lines, for Jalen Hurts, he's been an MVP candidate first 2 weeks of the season. I want to see continued growth from Jalen Hurts. And what I loved last week against Minnesota, he spread the ball out. Devontae Smith was involved. A.J. Brown was involved. Quez Watkins was used a little bit as a decoy, but he still caught a 53-yard touchdown. Dallas Goedert is a phenomenal tight end who I think is one of the best tight ends in the National Football League. So when you spread the ball out and when you use a bevy of ball carriers, when you're trying to establish that ground game, and then once you get it established, you have a couple of different guys who bring different elements to the table in Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, and Boston Scott. The versatile element of this Eagles offense, if that continues, they're going to continue to be very hard to defend. So before we hop on out of here, for our preview for Eagles Commanders, want you now to predict the score. We asked you for a winner. Now get more precise with it. Birds, Commanders, coming your way on Sunday. Watch party as well. Predict the score right now in the comment section.